What if the future of medicine wasn't cold, corporate, and dystopian, but warm, holistic, and hopeful? Tonight, we're exploring a day in the life of a healer in a soft cyberpunk world where bioluminescent plants light the streets, neural interfaces help patients control their anxiety in real time, and ancient healing wisdom merges seamlessly with cutting-edge biotechnology. Forget everything you think you know about cyberpunk. This isn't Blade Runner's rain-soaked neon nightmare. This is a future where vertical gardens climb glass towers, where AI assists healers instead of replacing them, and where healthcare is a human right, not a luxury. You're about to spend 24 hours with Dr. Chen as she treats chronic pain with myofascial release and neural stimulation, guides anxiety patients through biofeedback therapy, and makes house calls to underserved neighborhoods in a city that's learned to balance technology with humanity. We'll witness how she uses holistic medicine, integrative healthcare, neurofeedback therapy, and community-based healing to transform lives. You'll see bioluminescent technology, smart medical devices, personalized medicine protocols, and sustainable urban healthcare systems that actually work. This is solarpunk meets medical science fiction, where hope isn't naive but hard-won, where progress means caring for people and planet together. Whether you're fascinated by futuristic medicine, alternative healing practices, cyberpunk aesthetics, or simply want to escape into a better tomorrow, this journey will reveal what healthcare could become when we choose compassion over profit and connection over control. So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and prepare to imagine a future worth fighting for. Because sometimes, the most radical thing we can do is believe that tomorrow can be better than today. Before we begin, if you enjoy these journeys through history and imagination, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me create even more immersive experiences. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. I always love seeing the global community that gathers here for these late-night adventures. Let's begin. Now, find your most comfortable position, maybe dim the lights or pull up a soft blanket, and let's ease into this gentle future together. The night is ours, and Maya's day is about to begin. The first whisper of dawn touches the city, not with harsh fluorescence, but with the soft azure glow of bioluminescent vines that climb the exterior of Maya's residential tower. These genetically modified plants, developed at MIT in the early 2060s, have become standard fixtures in urban architecture. They photosynthesize during the day and release a gentle, moon-like luminescence through the night, reducing the city's electrical lighting needs by nearly 40%. Maya's bedroom window frames this living light show, the vines pulsing almost imperceptibly with the rhythm of photosynthesis, creating patterns that scientists have found mirror the delta waves of deep sleep. Inside her studio apartment, the air quality monitor, embedded seamlessly in the bamboo composite wall, displays readings in holographic amber, particulate matter at 2.1 micrograms per cubic meter, well below the World Health Organization's strictest guidelines. The building's integrated biofilter system, a network of moss walls and engineered fungi running through the ventilation, scrubs the outside air before it enters. This isn't just decoration. Research from the 2040s proved that such systems reduce respiratory ailments by 67% in urban populations while requiring minimal energy input beyond basic moisture control. Maya stirs as her circadian interface, a thin patch behind her left ear no larger than a coin, detects the shift in her brainwaves from deep sleep to lighter stages. Unlike the jarring alarms of previous centuries, this device communicates with her nervous system directly, triggering a gentle cascade of cortisol and norepinephrine that mimics the body's natural waking process. The technology, refined from neurofeedback therapies developed in the 2020s, allows for what researchers call conversational awakening, where the body and technology negotiate consciousness together rather than one forcing the other. She opens her eyes slowly, And the smart glass of her window responds to her increased alertness by gradually increasing its transparency, allowing more of the soft morning light to filter in. The glass itself contains suspended particles that can adjust opacity, tint, and even air purification properties in real time. This innovation emerged from solar panel technology that merged with architectural needs in the 2070s, creating surfaces that generate power, filter air, and regulate light simultaneously. Maya's bare feet touch the cork composite floor, which responds with gentle warmth. Radiant heating powered by the building's rooftop solar array and supplemented by geothermal exchange keeps the temperature precisely calibrated to her preferences, which the building's AI learned over her first month of residence. The entire system operates on principles of biomimicry, modeling itself after the way animals regulate body temperature through efficient heat distribution rather than brute force heating or cooling. Her first conscious act is always the same: 3 deep breaths while standing at the window, watching the city wake. This practice, recommended by her own healing protocols, activates the parasympathetic nervous system and sets a baseline of calm for the day ahead. The neuroscience behind this is solid. Studies from as far back as the early 2000s showed that controlled breathing exercises can reduce anxiety markers and improve emotional regulation throughout the day. The biofeedback patch behind her ear confirms this, displaying a soft green glow visible in her peripheral vision to indicate her nervous system has shifted into rest and digest mode. Beyond her window, the healing district spreads out in terraced layers of green and glass. Every building here serves some aspect of health and wellness, from the towering Mercy Hospital with its transparent surgery observation decks to the cluster of smaller clinics specializing in everything from traditional acupuncture to cutting-edge gene therapy. The district was designed in the 2070s according to principles of therapeutic architecture, where every sightline, every public space, every texture and color scheme was chosen to promote psychological well-being. Even the street layout follows mathematical patterns found in nature, reducing the subliminal stress that rigid grid systems can create. Maya moves to her small kitchen alcove, where a vertical hydroponic garden grows against the wall, its roots visible through transparent tubes that circulate nutrient-rich water. She plucks fresh mint leaves for tea, their fragrance sharp and clarifying in the morning air. This garden isn't just a hobby. Urban agriculture studies have shown that residents with access to growing spaces experience 23% lower stress hormones and report significantly higher life satisfaction scores. The act of tending plants, of nurturing growth, activates neural pathways associated with purpose and connection. While the water heats in a kettle that runs on induction heating, requiring no open flame and minimal energy, Maya checks her schedule through a subtle projection from her wrist device. This isn't the intrusive, attention-hijacking interface of early smartphones. This system was designed with what developers called respectful technology. Appearing only when summoned and fading when no longer needed, the projection shows her day in color-coded blocks: morning clinic hours in soft green, lunch consultation in warm gold, afternoon house calls in sky blue, evening research in deep purple. The kettle whistles, not electronically, but with an actual steam whistle, a deliberate design choice. Studies in human-technology interaction found that incorporating familiar analog feedback into smart devices reduces cognitive load and increases user satisfaction. Maya pours the water over mint leaves and a precisely measured blend of adaptogens: ashwagandha for stress resilience, rhodiola for mental clarity, and a touch of locally sourced honey that comes from the rooftop beehives maintained by the building's community agriculture cooperative. As she sips her tea, standing at the window watching streams of early commuters flow along the bioluminescent pathways below, Maya reflects on how different this world is from the one her grandmother described. The elder Dr. Chen had practiced medicine in the harsh years of the early 21st century, when profit-driven healthcare systems left millions without access to basic care, when technology felt like a wall between doctor and patient rather than a bridge. The shift, as historians called it, came gradually through the 2040-50s and 2050-50s as communities began reclaiming technology, reshaping it to serve human needs rather than corporate profits. The soft cyberpunk movement, equal parts philosophy and practical toolkit, emerged from this reimagining. Now, in 2087, healers like Maya work in a system that recognizes multiple modalities of wellness. Her medical license covers both traditional pharmacology and bioelectric medicine, both psychotherapy and energy work, both surgical technique and herbal formulation. This integration didn't come easily. It required decades of research proving that techniques once dismissed as alternative actually had measurable effects on human physiology. Acupuncture's influence on neural pathways, meditation's impact on gene expression, the microbiome's role in mental health. All these connections, scientifically validated, led to a more holistic understanding of healing. Maya finishes her tea and moves to her morning hygiene routine. Her bathroom, like everything in this era, blends efficiency with gentleness. The shower recycles 98% of its water through a filtration system that would have seemed miraculous to her grandmother. The soap dispenser releases a custom blend formulated for her skin's pH and microbiome, preserving the beneficial bacteria while cleansing. Even her toothbrush, with its gentle sonic vibrations and AI-adjusted pressure sensors, represents decades of research into oral health optimization. She dresses in her clinic uniform, soft, breathable fabric woven from recycled ocean plastics and bamboo fibers. In the healing profession's signature color gradient, from sage green to deep teal, the clothes regulate temperature through phase change materials embedded in the weave, keeping her comfortable regardless of the ambient conditions. Her name is embroidered over the heart in bioluminescent thread that glows faintly in low light. Dr. Maya Chen, integrative medicine. Before leaving her apartment, Maya pauses at her personal altar, a small shelf that holds objects of meaning, a smooth river stone from her grandmother's garden, a small statue of Kuan Yin, goddess of mercy, a dried sprig of lavender from her first attempt at growing medicinal herbs, a holographic photograph that cycles through images of her family across generations. She doesn't pray exactly, but takes a moment of intention setting, a practice rooted in both ancient tradition and modern neuroplasticity research, focusing her mind on her purpose for the day, to alleviate suffering, to bring comfort, to facilitate healing, actually primes her neural networks for the behaviors that support those goals. With a final check that her medical interface is fully charged and her emergency supplies are in her bag, Maya steps into the hallway and toward the elevator that will carry her down to street level and the start of her working day. The city is waking, and people will need her skills, her compassion, her ability to navigate the beautiful complexity of bodies and minds, supported by technology that finally serves rather than dominates. The elevator descends smoothly through the residential tower, its transparent walls offering glimpses of the vertical gardens that line the building's central atrium. These gardens serve multiple functions beyond aesthetics. They filter air, provide fresh produce for residents, create habitats for beneficial insects, and offer what environmental psychologists call green breaks, moments of visual connection with nature that reduce mental fatigue. As Maya descends, she passes a family on the third floor tending their section of the garden, teaching a young child how to check the moisture levels in the soil. Community responsibility for these spaces has proven more effective than paid maintenance, creating both better outcomes for the plants and stronger social bonds among residents. The elevator opens onto a small lobby where the building's AI assistant, manifesting as a subtle play of light and sound rather than an anthropomorphic form, greets her. "Good morning, Dr. Chen. Today's air quality index is excellent, with light precipitation expected this afternoon. The Community Health Board notes 3 new cases of seasonal allergies in the district. Would you like the extended briefing?" "Just the highlights, thank you," Maya responds. The AI has learned her preferences over time, knowing she wants essential information without overwhelming detail, This kind of adaptive intelligence represents decades of refinement in human-computer interaction. Early AI systems often suffered from what researchers called information obesity, providing so much data that it paralyzed rather than empowered decision-making modern systems, governed by strict ethical guidelines developed through the 2060s, prioritize human agency and cognitive wellness. Pollen count is elevated, primarily from the willow trees in Sector 7. The community pharmacy has increased stocks of elderberry syrup and locally sourced bee pollen for immunotherapy. Your first patient of the day has confirmed their appointment. Have a healing day, Dr. Chen. Maya steps out into the street, where the morning air carries the scent of rain on warm pavement and the subtle perfume of night-blooming jasmine that still lingers from the evening. The street itself tells a story of this soft cyberpunk world. Instead of asphalt, the surface is composed of permeable pavement that allows rainwater to filter back into the aquifer rather than overwhelming storm drains. Embedded in this surface are piezoelectric generators that capture the kinetic energy of footsteps and vehicle wheels, converting it to electricity that powers the streetlights and public charging stations. Every person walking contributes minutely to the city's power grid. The buildings lining the street showcase the architectural philosophy that emerged from the convergence of environmental necessity and technological capability. Vertical gardens climb their facades, not as afterthoughts but as integral structural elements. These living walls reduce building temperatures by up to 10 degrees Celsius in summer, provide insulation in winter, absorb noise pollution, and create corridors for urban wildlife. Maya spots a hummingbird visiting the trumpet flowers on a nearby clinic, a sight that would have been impossible in this urban setting a century ago. She walks toward her clinic, located just 3 blocks from her residence. One of the principles of soft cyberpunk urban planning is the 15-minute city, where residents can access all essential services, healthcare, groceries, education, recreation, within a short walk or bike ride. This dramatically reduces transportation emissions while increasing community cohesion and physical activity levels. Studies have shown that residents of such neighborhoods have cardiovascular health metrics comparable to people living in pre-industrial villages, despite being surrounded by advanced technology. Maya pauses at a small park, really just a widening in the street, where several benches surround a small fountain and a cluster of fruit trees. An elderly man practices Tai Chi in the gentle morning light, his movements fluid and precise. 2 young professionals sit on a bench, eating breakfast from reusable containers, while their neural interfaces feed them the morning news through subtle bone conduction, leaving their eyes free to watch the world around them. A group of children waits for the school transport, a quiet electric vehicle that runs on the district's shared fleet system, eliminating the need for individual car ownership while ensuring convenient mobility. This scene, peaceful and ordinary, represents countless small victories over the darker cyberpunk future that seemed inevitable in the early 21st century. The technology is still here, perhaps even more advanced than those dark visions imagined, but it's been shaped by different values. Sustainability over profit, community over individualism, enhancement over replacement of human capabilities. Maya arrives at the Harmony Healing Center, the clinic where she practices. The building is modest, only 3 stories tall, its facade covered in a living wall of medicinal plants. The entrance is marked by a sign that glows softly with bioluminescence. The caduceus symbol of medicine, reimagined with a double helix wrapped around a bamboo staff, representing the integration of genetic science with natural healing. She places her hand on the entrance panel, which reads her palm print while simultaneously performing a quick biometric scan. This isn't invasive surveillance, but medical monitoring. The panel, originally developed for hospital settings in the 2050s, can detect early signs of illness through tiny changes in skin temperature, moisture, and even the electrical conductivity that varies with stress hormones. Good morning, Dr. Chen. Baseline vitals normal. Cortisol slightly elevated. Recommend hydration boost. Your neural patch battery is at 87%. The door opens into a reception area that deliberately avoids the sterile feeling of old hospitals. The floor is warm bamboo. The walls are painted in the soft green tones that color psychology research has shown promote calm and trust. Real plants, not synthetic ones, fill every available space. A small fountain burbles in the corner, the sound of water providing white noise that masks conversations and creates privacy without requiring walls. Research in acoustic design has proven that such natural sounds reduce patient anxiety more effectively than silence or music. Lynn, the clinic's administrative coordinator, looks up from her workstation. Her desk is an interesting hybrid of old and new, a reclaimed wood surface embedded with holographic displays that appear only when activated. Morning, Maya. We have 7 appointments scheduled, 2 walk-ins already waiting, and the Community Health Network is asking if you can participate in the vaccine clinic this afternoon. There's been a small outbreak of a mutated rhinovirus in the lower district. I can spare 2 hours starting at 3, Maya replies, already mentally reorganizing her schedule. Public health has always been part of her role, one of the responsibilities that comes with being a licensed healer in this system. The Community Health Network, a decentralized web of clinics and individual practitioners, coordinates responses to outbreaks, shares research, and ensures that even the poorest neighborhoods have access to quality care. This model, based on principles tested in Cuba and Kerala in the 20th century, has virtually eliminated the health disparities that once existed. Maya heads to her office, a small room on the 2nd floor with a window overlooking a courtyard garden. She activates her medical interface, a more powerful version of the wrist device civilians use. The holographic display springs to life, showing her today's patient roster, their medical histories, and preliminary biometric data collected by their personal health monitors. This system represents one of the major ethical debates of the 2060s. How much health monitoring is beneficial, and how much becomes invasive surveillance. The solution reached was a framework called consensual transparency. Individuals own their health data completely and choose what to share with whom. Medical AI systems can analyze this data only with explicit permission and only for specific purposes. The data itself is stored in distributed networks that no single entity controls, and patients can revoke access at any time. This model prevents the corporate health data exploitation that characterized earlier decades, while still allowing the benefits of AI-assisted diagnosis and treatment. Maya's first patient is scheduled for 8 o'clock. She has 45 minutes for her own preparation. She begins with a grounding exercise, a practice she learned during her medical training that combines ancient meditation techniques with biofeedback technology. Sitting in her office chair, she places sensors on her temples, thin, almost invisible patches that read her brainwave patterns. Her neural interface displays the data as flowing colors, beta waves in yellow indicating active thinking, alpha waves in green showing relaxed awareness, and the deeper theta and delta waves in blues and purples. The goal is to achieve a state researchers call coherent readiness, alert, yet calm, focused, yet flexible. She breathes deeply, following a pattern. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out, hold for 4. This box breathing technique has been used by everyone from ancient yogis to modern military snipers because it reliably induces a state of controlled calm. As she breathes, she watches the display shift, yellow diminishing, green expanding, with occasional pulses of blue as she drops into deeper states. This practice serves multiple purposes. It centers her for the emotional labor of healing work. It demonstrates to herself and her patients that she practices what she preaches, and it calibrates her nervous system's baseline, which her neural patch will monitor throughout the day to alert her if she's becoming too stressed or fatigued. One of the critical lessons from 20th century medicine was the epidemic of burnout among healthcare workers. Modern healing protocols build in mandatory self-care and rest, recognizing that healers cannot pour from empty cups. After her meditation, Maya reviews the latest research uploads in her field. The medical AI, which she's named Hippocrates after an ancient physician, curates articles based on her interests and her patients' conditions. Today it highlights a new study on the effectiveness of combining low-level laser therapy with acupuncture for chronic pain, a meta-analysis of gut microbiome interventions for depression, and a case study from a clinic in Mumbai about using virtual reality exposure therapy for trauma alongside traditional EMDR techniques. She skims the abstracts, downloading 2 to her neural patch for deeper reading during transit time. One of the advantages of modern medicine is this constant flow of knowledge. The AI doesn't just present information, but helps process it, flagging methodological concerns, connecting findings across disciplines, and even running preliminary analyses on how these findings might apply to her patient population. It's what medical education researchers called just-in-time learning, where knowledge arrives precisely when it's needed, rather than being front-loaded in years of schooling and then allowed to decay. Maya also checks the Community Health Board, a collaborative platform where local healers share observations and coordinate care. Today, there's a thread about the seasonal allergy spike the building AI mentioned. Several practitioners have found success with a combination of quercetin supplements, local honey immunotherapy, and daily sinus rinses with saline solution. Another healer has uploaded a recipe for an herbal tea blend that combines nettle, butterbur, and turmeric. All known for their anti-inflammatory properties, Maya saves this to share with her patients who prefer botanical interventions. The platform also shows the real-time health status of the district, displayed as a heat map of colors. Respiratory issues show orange spikes in 2 areas, likely due to increased pollen. Mental health metrics show a slight district-wide dip, marked in pale blue, which the AI attributes to the overcast weather and shortened daylight hours of late autumn. There's a green cluster around the new community center that opened last month, indicating improved well-being in that neighborhood. This kind of population health monitoring, done ethically and with community consent, allows healers to be proactive rather than reactive. Maya stands and performs a series of stretches, following a routine designed by a colleague who specializes in occupational wellness. The movements are based on Qigong, a traditional Chinese practice, but modified based on modern understanding of biomechanics and fascia health. She rolls her shoulders, extends her spine, rotates her ankles and wrists. The simple act of moving, of bringing blood flow to muscles that will hold tension through the day, is a form of preventive medicine she practices on herself before attempting to heal others. At 7:55, she receives a ping from the front desk. Her first patient has arrived. Maya takes one final deep breath, feels the centering in her body, the clarity in her mind, and heads downstairs to the examination room where healing work begins. The examination rooms at Harmony Healing Center represent decades of research into therapeutic environments. The walls are painted in warm earth tones that studies have shown reduce blood pressure and anxiety. Natural light streams through large windows, supplemented by full-spectrum LED lighting that mimics sunlight's circadian rhythm. Real plants, snake plants for air purification, lavender for its calming scent, occupy corners and shelves. Even the examination table, cushioned and adjustable, was designed to be less intimidating than the high, cold tables of previous eras. Maya's first patient is Jorge Hernandez, a 53-year-old construction worker who's been dealing with chronic lower back pain for the past 8 months. He sits in the comfortable chair reserved for patients rather than on the examination table. Appreciating the egalitarian message, this sends Maya pulls up a chair across from him, maintaining eye contact at the same level. Another detail that communicates respect and partnership rather than hierarchy. "Good morning, Jorge. How have you been since our last session?" She's already reviewing his biometric data on her wrist interface, seeing that his pain levels, recorded by his personal health monitor, have averaged 6 out of 10 this week, with spikes to 8 during work hours. "Morning, Doc. The exercises you showed me help, especially in the morning. But by afternoon, when I'm bending and lifting, it gets bad again. The anti-inflammatory supplements ease it a bit, but not enough. Jorge's voice carries the weariness of chronic pain, that exhaustion that comes from bodies that hurt relentlessly. Maya nods, her neural patch recording the conversation while her medical AI simultaneously analyzes his speech patterns for indicators of depression, which commonly accompanies chronic pain. Let's do a physical assessment, and then I want to try something new. There's a combination therapy we've had success with, targeted neural stimulation paired with myofascial release. Jorge moves to the examination table, and Maya begins her assessment. Her hands, trained through thousands of hours of practice, palpate his lower back, feeling for the telltale knots of trigger points, the heat of inflammation, the structural misalignments that often accompany injury. But her assessment isn't purely tactile. Her medical gloves, embedded with microsensors, feed data to her interface. Muscle tension measured in newtons, temperature gradients indicating blood flow, even the electrical resistance of his skin, which varies with nervous system activation. The holographic display projected above the table shows a real-time three-dimensional model of Jorge's lower back, built from the sensor data she can see, and show him exactly where the problem areas lie. The multifidus muscles on the left side of his spine show in angry red, indicating tension and reduced blood flow. The facet joints at 4 to L5 show slight misalignment. The fascia, the connective tissue that wraps everything, displays as tight bands restricting movement. See here. Maya points to the display. This is where the pain originates. The muscles are in spasm, trying to protect an area they perceive as injured. This creates a cycle where tension causes pain, pain causes more tension. She traces the pattern with her finger, and the display highlights the neural pathways carrying pain signals from his back to his brain. This ability to visualize what's happening inside the body, to make the invisible visible, represents one of the profound shifts in medicine. Patients become partners in their healing when they can see and understand what's occurring. The mystification that once characterized medical practice, where doctors knew and patients merely complied, has given way to genuine collaboration. The treatment I'm suggesting works on 2 levels, Maya continues. First, I'll use myofascial release to manually address the tension and adhesions in your fascia. This is hands-on work. I'll be applying sustained pressure to help the tissue release and lengthen. Second, I'll use transcutaneous electrical neural stimulation, which sounds scarier than it is. Small electrical impulses will interrupt the pain signals traveling from your back to your brain while stimulating your body's production of endorphins, your natural painkillers. Jorge agrees, and Maya begins. Her hands work systematically, finding the restrictions in his tissue and applying sustained pressure that allows the fascia to release. This isn't the quick, snap, crack, pop of some manipulations, but slow, patient work that respects the body's pace of change. As she works, she talks him through breath work, asking him to direct his breath to the areas she's treating, a technique that combines mindfulness with physiology. Simultaneously, she applies the neural stimulation device, a slim wand that delivers precise electrical impulses to specific points along his spine. The technology descended from TENS units developed in the 20th century, but refined with AI precision. The stimulation pattern isn't random, but follows an algorithm based on his specific pain patterns, adjusting in real time to his body's responses. Jorge can feel it. A tingling sensation, almost pleasant, that seems to cut through the dull ache he's carried for months. This feels weird, Jorge says, but good weird, like something's finally reaching the pain. That's exactly what's happening, Maya confirms. The electrical stimulation is essentially teaching your nervous system that this area is safe, that it doesn't need to maintain constant alert status. Combined with the manual work to restore proper tissue function, we're addressing both the physical restriction and the neurological component of chronic pain. 20 minutes later, when Jorge sits up, his movement is visibly easier. The holographic display shows the improvement. Muscle tension reduced by 40%, better symmetry in the spinal alignment, increased flexibility in his range of motion. But more importantly, Jorge reports that the pain, which had been a constant 6, now hovers around 3. This isn't a magic cure, Maya cautions. Chronic pain requires ongoing management, but I want you to continue the exercises, use the anti-inflammatory protocol we discussed, and come back twice weekly for the next month for these combination sessions. I'm also going to refer you to Dr. Okafor for nutritional counseling. There's increasing evidence that certain dietary changes can reduce systemic inflammation, which contributes to pain. She sends the treatment notes to his personal health file, along with video demonstrations of his exercises, and prescribes a custom herbal formula from the clinic's pharmacy: white willow bark for pain, turmeric for inflammation, and valerian root to help him sleep despite discomfort. The pharmacy, located on the first floor, compounds medicines specifically for each patient, a practice that was nearly lost in the era of mass-produced pharmaceuticals, but has been revived as 3D printing and AI-assisted formulation made personalized medicine practical again. Jorge leaves walking taller, moving easier, carrying less of that defeated posture that chronic pain imprints on bodies. Maya makes a note to check his biometric data in a few days to see how the improvement holds. Her second patient couldn't be more different. Aisha Osman is a 27-year-old software developer who comes to Maya not for physical pain, but for anxiety that's been escalating over the past 6 months. She sits in the consultation chair, her right leg bouncing nervously, her hands fidgeting with the sleeve of her sweater. Even before they speak, Maya's interface displays concerning data from Aisha's health monitor: elevated resting heart rate, shallow breathing pattern, and cortisol levels that have been consistently high for weeks. "Thank you for seeing me, Dr. Chen," Aisha begins. I'm not sure what's wrong with me. I've been feeling like I can't catch my breath. My heart races for no reason. I lie in bed at night with my mind spinning, can't sleep, can't turn it off. My doctor ran all the tests and says nothing's physically wrong, but something is definitely wrong. Maya listens, her training allowing her to hear not just the words but the subtext. Aisha's symptoms are classic markers of an anxiety disorder, specifically what used to be called generalized anxiety disorder. But Maya knows that labels, while useful for treatment protocols, can sometimes trap patients in identities built around illness. Her approach is to treat the person, not just the diagnosis. "First, I want you to know that what you're experiencing is real," Maya says, her tone conveying the validation that anxious people desperately need. Your body is stuck in a state of threat response, as if you were facing constant danger. The racing heart, the breathlessness, the spinning thoughts, these are survival mechanisms that your nervous system has activated. They're not weakness or imagination. They're your body trying to protect you, but the threat alarm has gotten stuck in the on position. She offers Aisha a cup of chamomile tea, prepared with honey and a subtle addition of L-theanine, an amino acid with proven anti-anxiety effects. The simple act of holding something warm, of having the ritual of tea, begins to activate Aisha's parasympathetic nervous system. Small interventions, carefully chosen, accumulate into significant effects. "I'd like to try something that might help you understand what's happening in your body right now," Maya continues. "It's called biofeedback. I'm going to place some sensors on you that will show us your physiological state in real time, and then I'll teach you techniques to shift that state. Would you be comfortable with that?" Aisha nods, and Maya applies the sensors, one on her temple to read brain waves, one on her finger to measure heart rate variability, and one on her abdomen to track breathing patterns. The holographic display activates, showing Aisha's inner state translated into visual form. Her heart rate variability, the natural variation in time between heartbeats, which is actually a sign of nervous system health, is very low, indicating a rigid, stressed-out state. Her brain waves show excessive beta activity, the fast waves associated with active thinking and anxiety. Her breathing is rapid and shallow, centered in her chest rather than her diaphragm. This is your nervous system right now, Maya explains. See how everything is fast and shallow? This is your sympathetic nervous system dominating, your fight or flight response. It's exhausting to live like this. But here's the powerful part. You can change this. Your nervous system isn't controlling you. You can learn to influence it. Over the next 30 minutes, Maya guides Aisha through a series of techniques, all grounded in decades of neuroscience research. They start with diaphragmatic breathing, placing Aisha's hand on her belly to feel it expand with each breath. The display shows immediate changes. Breathing slowing, heart rate variability increasing, beta brain waves decreasing, while alpha waves, associated with relaxed alertness, begin to emerge. Maya introduces progressive muscle relaxation, having Aisha tense and release muscle groups while watching how this affects her physiology on the screen. They practice a technique called vagal toning, which stimulates the vagus nerve, a major component of the parasympathetic nervous system, through specific breathing patterns and humming vibrations. Each technique, Aisha can see its effects in real time, which reinforces her sense of agency. She's not helpless before her anxiety, she has tools. This is incredible, Aisha says, watching her own brain waves shift toward calmer patterns. I can actually see myself changing it. Exactly, Maya affirms. Anxiety often feels like something that happens to you beyond your control. But your nervous system is learning right now that you have influence over your state. This is neuroplasticity in action, your brain forming new patterns. Maya prescribes a protocol for Aisha that combines multiple approaches. She'll start using a home biofeedback device, a simple version of the clinic's system, for 15 minutes of daily practice. She'll begin cognitive behavioral therapy with one of the clinic's counselors, addressing the thought patterns that fuel anxiety. She'll try a supplement regimen, magnesium for its calming effects on the nervous system, omega-3 fatty acids, which research has linked to reduced anxiety, and ashwagandha, an adaptogenic herb with solid evidence for stress reduction. But Maya also addresses lifestyle factors. She reviews Aisha's sleep hygiene, learning that she often works until midnight, screen light and mental stimulation keeping her wired. They discuss caffeine intake. Aisha drinks 4 cups of coffee daily, each one temporarily relieving anxiety, but ultimately worsening it. Maya explains about circadian rhythm disruption and how the body needs wind-down time, suggesting that Aisha establish a screen-free hour before bed and try reading, gentle stretching, or listening to music instead. I'm also going to recommend you connect with the district's mindfulness meditation group, Maya adds. They meet 3 evenings a week in the park. It's free, open to all, and it provides both the structure of regular practice and the social connection, which is profoundly important for mental health. This holistic approach, addressing biology through supplements and biofeedback, psychology through therapy, and social connection through community groups, reflects the integrated understanding of health that defines soft cyberpunk healing. Nothing is just physical, or just mental, or just social. Everything interweaves. Aisha leaves with her prescriptions, her biofeedback device, and most importantly, a sense that she's not broken, but rather dealing with a system that needs recalibration. The display showed her that she could change her state, which is the foundation of hope. Maya's morning continues with a parade of humanity's vulnerabilities and strengths. An elderly man with hypertension who needs his medication adjusted, and encouragement to continue his daily walks, a teenager with persistent acne which requires both topical treatment and a conversation about the gut-skin connection and dietary influences on inflammation, a pregnant woman seeking support for natural childbirth, wanting to understand her options in a medical system that has finally learned to trust women's bodies again while still offering safety nets when needed. Each patient brings a story, a body, a life that extends far beyond the symptoms they present. Maya listens, assesses, treats, and educates. The technology assists her, providing data, suggesting treatments, monitoring outcomes, but never replaces the fundamental human connection that lies at healing's heart. Her hands touch bodies with respectful attention. Her eyes meet eyes with genuine presence. Her words carry both knowledge and compassion. By 12:30, her morning clinic hours end. She's seen 9 patients, each interaction meaningful, each person sent away with tools and hope and a plan for continued healing. She's tired. The work is demanding, but also energized by the privilege of being trusted with such intimate vulnerability. Maya climbs the stairs to the building's rooftop, preferring the physical movement to the elevator. The 3 flights are enough to elevate her heart rate, to remind her body of its capacity for effort and recovery, a mini exercise that combats the sedentary nature of much clinic work. The stairwell walls are painted with a mural created by community members, depicting the healing journey as a spiral that moves both inward and upward, a piece of art that simultaneously beautifies and teaches. The rooftop garden sprawls across the entire top of the building, a testament to the soft cyberpunk principle that every surface should serve multiple functions. Solar panels arch overhead on adjustable mounts, angled to capture maximum sunlight while creating dappled shade below. Rainwater collection barrels line one edge, feeding an irrigation system that waters the diverse plantings. The garden contains medicinal herbs for the clinic's pharmacy, vegetables for the staff kitchen, and flowers that attract the pollinators, essential to urban ecology. Maya isn't alone. Several colleagues sit at a reclaimed wood picnic table, eating lunch from reusable containers. There's Dr. Kowalski, the acupuncturist whose hands can find meridian points with uncanny accuracy, Nurse Elodie, who runs the pediatric wing with a perfect balance of gentleness and firmness. Dr. Okafor, the nutritionist Maya referred Jorge to earlier, who approaches food as medicine with the same rigor other doctors apply to pharmacology, and Chen, no relation despite sharing a surname, who specializes in mental health and uses virtual reality exposure therapy to help patients overcome phobias and process trauma. This collective lunch, informal but regular, serves purposes beyond nourishment. It's a community of practice where healers can consult with each other, share difficult cases, and process the emotional weight of the work. Research into professional resilience has consistently shown that such peer support systems are among the most effective buffers against burnout. Maya retrieves her lunch from the communal kitchen, a grain bowl with quinoa, roasted vegetables, chickpeas, and a tahini dressing, prepared that morning by the building's food cooperative. The cooperative, staffed by community members who receive basic income support, prepares healthy meals for building workers at cost, ensuring that even healers with packed schedules can access nutritious food. This model, replicated across the district, emerged from studies showing that food insecurity and poor nutrition plagued even professional workers in the profit-driven economy of earlier decades. "How's your morning been?" Dr. Kowalski asks, as Maya sits down. "Busy, but good. Helped Jorge Hernandez finally get some relief from his back pain. Worked with a young woman named Aisha on anxiety management, the usual parade of human bodies trying their best under challenging conditions. I saw Jorge's notes in the shared system," Nurse Elodie comments. The shared care model means that patient records, with their permission, are accessible to all their healthcare providers, ensuring coordinated treatment rather than fragmented care. That combination of myofascial work and neural stimulation is showing really promising outcomes. We should present the aggregated data at the District Health Conference next month. This kind of collaborative research, where practitioners share findings from their clinical work, has accelerated medical progress. Instead of knowledge being locked in corporate-funded studies or academic publications, it flows freely through networks of practitioners who test interventions and share results. The AI systems help by aggregating data, identifying patterns, and suggesting new combinations to try, but always under human oversight and ethical review. Speaking of patterns, Chen interjects, I've noticed an uptick in patients presenting with what they describe as digital fatigue. People who work in virtual spaces all day, especially those using full immersion VR, are showing symptoms similar to dissociation. We might need to develop protocols for this. The table engages in animated discussion. Dr. Okafor wonders if it's a nutrient deficiency. Perhaps certain vitamins or minerals are depleted by extended VR use. Dr. Kowalski suggests that the disconnect from physical sensation in virtual spaces might be addressed through practices that ground people in their bodies. Yoga, martial arts, massage. Maya mentions research she recently read about the importance of natural environments for nervous system regulation and wonders if the solution is partially ensuring people have regular, unmediated contact with nature. This kind of interdisciplinary thinking, pulling from nutrition science, traditional practices, psychology, and environmental health, exemplifies the integrative approach that characterizes soft cyberpunk healing. No single modality has all the answers. Truth emerges at the intersections. Their conversation is interrupted by a soft chime from Maya's wrist interface. It's a message from the district health coordinator. The rhinovirus outbreak in the lower district is more serious than initially thought. They're requesting all available practitioners to assist with a rapid response vaccine clinic this afternoon. The vaccine, developed using mRNA technology refined over decades, can be customized within hours to match emerging viral strains, but it still needs to be administered by trained hands, and the community trust that makes people willing to receive it. I already committed to 2 hours starting at 3, Maya tells the group. Anyone else able to help? Dr. Kowalski and Nurse Elodie both volunteer. The sense of collective responsibility, of shared duty to community health, runs deep among healers in this system. There's no debate about whether this is their job or concerns about compensation. The community provides for healers through a combination of universal healthcare funding and local support systems, freeing them to focus on healing rather than billing codes and insurance negotiations. As they finish lunch, Dr. Okafor pulls out a basket of fresh figs from the rooftop garden's small fruit tree. First harvest, he announces with pride. The group passes the basket, each taking a fig, biting into the sweet flesh. There's something profound about this moment. Healers nourishing themselves with food grown steps from where they work, participating in the cycle of growth and sustenance that their medicine aims to support in their patients' bodies. Maya savors her fig, feeling the natural sugars energize her for the afternoon ahead. The rooftop garden around them buzzes with insect life, bees moving between flower blooms, butterflies perching on herb leaves, a dragonfly hovering near the water barrel. This soundscape, this sensory environment of growing things and busy life, provides the kind of restoration that no meditation app can replicate. Biophilia, the human need for connection with living systems, isn't poetic metaphor, but physiological necessity. Before heading back downstairs, Maya spends a few minutes tending the lavender plants she's cultivating. She pinches off spent blooms, noting with satisfaction the new buds forming. This hands-in soil work, brief as it is, serves as a reset button for her nervous system. Research has shown that soil bacteria trigger serotonin production in human brains, that the act of caring for plants reduces stress hormones, that engaging with the natural world in this direct, unmediated way has measurable benefits for mental health. Her neural patch confirms this, showing her stress markers dropping, her heart rate variability increasing, all signs that her body is moving out of sympathetic arousal and into the parasympathetic state that allows for rest and restoration. She makes a mental note to prescribe garden time for some of her anxious patients. Not every intervention needs to be high-tech. Sometimes the oldest solutions remain the best. At 2:30, Maya heads back to her office to prepare for afternoon house calls. The lower district where she's heading is economically challenged, home to people working essential but low-paid jobs, to immigrants still finding their footing, to those who fell through cracks that this more equitable society is still learning to seal. These populations need healing just as much, perhaps more, than the relatively affluent residents of the healing district, but they're less likely to come to clinics, whether due to time constraints, language barriers, or the mistrust that marginalized communities have learned through hard experience. So healers go to them. It's a core principle of soft cyberpunk medicine, healthcare as a right, as a service that comes to people rather than forcing them to navigate bureaucratic barriers. Maya loads her medical bag with supplies, the portable version of her diagnostic equipment, a pharmacy's worth of common medications and herbal remedies, her tablet loaded with translation software that can bridge language gaps, and most importantly, her presence and skill. The afternoon will be challenging, but challenge is where the work matters most. Maya boards the district shuttle, a sleek electric vehicle that runs on elevated rails above the street traffic. The public transit system, a network of electric buses, light rail, and bike lanes, has been optimized through decades of urban planning focused on accessibility rather than profit. The ride costs nothing at point of use, funded through district-wide health and infrastructure taxes that everyone contributes to based on their means. The result is that even those with limited income can move freely through the city, accessing healthcare, jobs, education, and community resources. The shuttle glides smoothly, its AI guidance system navigating traffic with an efficiency human drivers could never match. Maya watches the city flow past the transparent walls. The healing district gives way to the arts quarter, where building facades burst with murals and the streets host workshops where craftspeople practice their trades. Then comes the tech sector, where innovation labs and maker spaces allow entrepreneurs and tinkerers to develop new solutions to community needs, their work supported by grants and crowdfunding rather than venture capital that demands exploitative profit margins. Finally, the shuttle descends into the lower district. The change is visible. Buildings here are older, many predating the soft cyberpunk transformation of the city. The vertical gardens are sparser, maintained by volunteers rather than professional crews. The streets see more repair work, more visible wear, but even here, the community has fought for dignity. Solar panels on rooftops, even if fewer and less efficient. Community gardens in vacant lots, even if smaller art projects brightening walls, created by residents asserting that beauty isn't a luxury, but a human right. Maya's first stop is a multifamily housing complex where several of her patients live. The building's entrance is watched over by Donna Rosa, an elderly woman who's appointed herself unofficial concierge and who knows everyone and everything happening in the building. She greets Maya with a warm smile. "Dr. Chen, so good you come." The Martinez family, 4th floor, apartment B. The baby has fever for 2 days. And Mrs. Kwan on the 3rd floor, she needs her blood pressure checked. And if you have time, Mr. Jackson on the 1st floor, his diabetes monitor broke and he's worried. Maya makes mental notes, adding these to the 2 patients she's officially scheduled to see. This is how community health works in practice. Fluid, responsive, based on trust and relationships rather than rigid appointment systems. She climbs the stairs, her medical bag over one shoulder, and knocks on the Martinez apartment door. The door opens to reveal Maria Martinez, a tired-looking woman in her mid-20s, holding an infant who's flushed and whimpering. Behind her, 2 toddlers peer out with curious eyes. The apartment is small but clean, the smell of cooking beans drifting from the kitchen. Maria speaks primarily Spanish, but Maya's translation software bridges the gap, providing real-time interpretation through a subtle earbud. "Thank you for coming," Maria says, relief evident in her voice. "Isabella has been so hot. I gave her the medicine from the pharmacy, but I worry." Maya washes her hands in the kitchen sink, then gently takes the baby. Her medical gloves begin their assessment immediately, sensors reading Isabella's temperature. 38.9 degrees Celsius, elevated, but not dangerously so. Her heart rate, her oxygen saturation. Maya examines her ears with a smart otoscope that takes images and sends them to her interface for AI analysis. The left ear shows inflammation, acute otitis media, a common childhood infection. It's an ear infection, Maya explains, showing Maria the image on her tablet. Painful, but treatable. The fever is her body fighting the infection, which is good. She's always careful to frame illness in terms that emphasize the body's wisdom, its efforts to heal itself, rather than using language that suggests the body is betraying the person. Maya prescribes antibiotics. The baby needs them for this bacterial infection, but also recommends complementary care. She shows Maria how to apply warm compresses to ease the pain, suggests elevating Isabella's head while sleeping to help fluid drain, and provides packets of a child-safe herbal tea that can soothe and support the immune system. She also checks that Maria knows when to bring Isabella to the emergency clinic if the fever spikes above 40 degrees, if she becomes lethargic, if she shows signs of difficulty breathing. I'll check in tomorrow via video call, Maya promises, and I'll arrange for a follow-up visit in 3 days to make sure the infection is resolving. The pediatric care protocol requires close monitoring, and Maya makes a note in her interface to ensure this happens. Before leaving, she does a quick wellness check on the 2 toddlers, finding them healthy, but noting that they're due for their next round of immunizations. She schedules them for the community vaccine clinic happening next week. These opportunistic interventions, catching healthcare needs during routine visits, help ensure that children in under-resourced communities receive the same preventive care as wealthier populations. Her next scheduled patient is 3 buildings away. Mr. Pham, a 67-year-old man recovering from a stroke 6 months ago. He lives alone, and his primary concern is regaining the mobility and independence he lost. Maya finds him doing exercises in his small living room, following a routine displayed on his wall screen. The program, developed by the district's physical therapy collective, uses motion capture technology to ensure he's performing movements correctly. "Dr. Chen," he greets her, pausing his exercise. His speech is slightly slurred, residual effect of the stroke, but his determination is evident. "Watch, I can do 10 squats now. Last week, only 7. Maya watches, her interface analyzing his movement patterns. The AI notes improved balance, better weight distribution, increased range of motion in the affected leg, progress, real and measurable. They spend time reviewing his recovery protocol. She checks his blood pressure, well controlled on medication, assesses his sensation in the affected limbs, returning gradually, and evaluates his mood, stable, though with occasional frustration at the slow pace of recovery. But their conversation ranges wider. Mr. Pham talks about his garden, the tomatoes he's trying to grow on his small balcony. He mentions missing his weekly social gathering at the community center, paused during his acute recovery phase. Maya recognizes these social and purposeful activities as crucial to his healing and encourages him to resume them. Stroke recovery isn't just physical rehabilitation, but psychosocial reconnection. She adjusts his supplement regimen, adding a compound that research suggests may support neuroplasticity and recovery. She teaches him a new set of exercises targeting fine motor control in his hands, demonstrating on her own hands first, then guiding his through the movements. The session is part medical care, part coaching, part companionship for a man living alone and fighting to reclaim his life. As she leaves, Mr. Pham presses a small container of dried tea leaves into her hands. "From my homeland," he says, "special tea for health." The gesture moves Maya, this reciprocity, this maintenance of dignity through giving even when receiving care, is something the medical system has finally learned to honor rather than dismiss. The afternoon continues with Mrs. Kwan. Blood pressure slightly elevated, medication adjusted, conversation about stress management, and Mr. Jackson, temporary replacement diabetes monitor provided, education about backup systems, blood sugar levels reviewed. Each patient, each story, each life touched by the kind of personalized, unhurried care that the profit-driven medicine of earlier eras could rarely provide. By the time Maya finishes her scheduled house calls, it's nearly 3 o'clock. She heads to the community center where the vaccine clinic is being held. The building, a converted warehouse, serves as the lower district's hub for social services, classes, meetings, and emergency response coordination. Today, one large room has been converted into a vaccine administration center. Tables line the walls, each staffed by a healthcare worker. Residents queue patiently, some with children, some elderly, some young adults. The atmosphere is more community gathering than clinical procedure. A volunteer plays guitar in one corner. Another volunteer provides free tea and snacks. Someone has brought their therapy dog, which wanders among the crowd, offering comfort to anxious children and lonely seniors. Maya reports to the coordinator, receives her station assignment and supply of pre-loaded vaccine syringes. The mRNA vaccine, customized this morning to match the circulating rhinovirus strain, is simple to administer, but requires the trained eye to ensure proper technique and watch for adverse reactions. She takes her position at her table, and the first patient approaches. Over the next 2 hours, Maya administers 47 doses. Each interaction is brief, but contains multitudes. An elderly man who tells her about surviving a pandemic in his youth, a pregnant woman concerned about vaccine safety, whom Maya reassures with up-to-date research data, a teenager who faints at the sight of needles and needs gentle distraction and a longer recovery period, a mother with 3 children who's juggling them while trying to roll up her sleeve, whom Maya helps by entertaining the kids with a simple magic trick involving her holographic interface. This work, preventive rather than curative, lacks the drama of emergency medicine, but possibly has greater impact. Each vaccine dose prevents illness, reduces transmission, protects vulnerable community members who cannot be vaccinated. The data will show, weeks from now, that this rapid response clinic prevented what could have been a serious outbreak. But that invisible success, that suffering that never happens, is the nature of public health. During a brief lull, Maya chats with Dr. Kowalski, who's stationed at the next table. They discuss the digital fatigue issue raised at lunch. Dr. Kowalski mentions that acupuncture points associated with grounding and physical sensation might be useful. Maya wonders about collaborating on a study, offering patients with VR-related symptoms, a combined protocol of biofeedback training and acupuncture, measuring outcomes against a control group receiving standard care. This is how medical knowledge advances in the soft cyberpunk world, not through corporate-funded trials, but through collaborative inquiries by practitioners who notice patterns and systematically test solutions. The research isn't less rigorous, it's differently motivated, driven by genuine curiosity and desire to help, rather than profit potential. By 5 o'clock, the vaccine clinic winds down. The last patients have been seen, the supplies packed away, the data uploaded to the district health database. Maya says goodbye to her colleagues and heads back to the shuttle station. Her bag is lighter now, many of the supplies used up through the day's work. Her body is tired, that particular weariness that comes from sustained attention and emotional engagement. But there's satisfaction in this fatigue. She's seen real needs and met them. She's connected with people at their most vulnerable and offered skilled, compassionate care. She's been part of a system that, despite its imperfections, strives to honor the basic principle that health is a human right, not a commodity to be bought by those with means while others suffer. The shuttle rises, carrying her back toward the healing district. Through the window, she watches the sunset paint the city in shades of amber and rose. The solar panels on buildings catch the light, gleaming like scales on some enormous benevolent creature. The vertical gardens softly glow with their bioluminescence, preparing for their night shift of providing light and beauty, and everywhere, in the streets below, people move through their lives, working, playing, struggling, celebrating, supported by systems that, when they work well, are nearly invisible but absolutely essential. Maya's day isn't over yet. She still has administrative work, research to review, personal preparation for tomorrow's patients. But for this moment, watching her city glow in the dying light, she allows herself simply to be tired and grateful and present. The sun has set by the time Maya returns to her office at Harmony Healing Center. The building has shifted its energy with the day's transition, where the morning held focused intensity and the afternoon compassionate motion. The evening carries a quality of reflection and consolidation. The bioluminescent vines on the building's exterior have fully activated, casting their gentle blue-green glow through Maya's window. This light, soft and steady, has been shown to support the evening production of melatonin while not interfering with the focused work of screen-based tasks. Maya settles into her desk chair, which adjusts automatically to her posture and activates her medical interface. The evening's first task is always the most mundane, but perhaps most important: documentation. Each patient encounter from the day needs to be properly recorded in the shared medical database. This isn't the soul-crushing paperwork that plagued earlier generations of doctors, where insurance requirements demanded extensive documentation primarily for billing and liability purposes. Modern medical records serve actual clinical purposes, tracking patient progress, enabling coordinated care across practitioners, contributing to research databases that identify effective treatments, and ensuring continuity if a patient sees different healers. The AI assistant, Hippocrates, has already generated draft notes based on the conversations and diagnostic data from each appointment, but Maya reviews them carefully, adding context that only human judgment can provide. For Jorge Hernandez, she notes the visible emotional relief that accompanied his physical improvement, suggesting that his chronic pain likely had a psychosocial component worth addressing. For Aisha Osman, she adds observations about specific anxiety triggers mentioned in conversation and recommendations for cognitive behavioral therapy approaches that might work best given Aisha's analytical personality. These notes aren't just for Maya's reference. Because Aisha also sees Chen for therapy and might consult Dr. Okafor about dietary approaches to anxiety, her care team needs coordinated understanding. The shared record allows this without requiring endless meetings or communication breakdowns. Privacy is protected through robust encryption and strict access protocols. Only those directly involved in a patient's care can view their records, and patients can revoke access at any time. But information flows where it needs to flow. Documentation complete, Maya turns to her second evening task: reviewing the day's biometric data across her patient panel. Modern medicine generates vast amounts of data from personal health monitors, and while the AI systems can flag concerning trends, human oversight remains essential. Maya scrolls through displays showing aggregated metrics for her 214 active patients. Most show normal variation, the expected fluctuations of living bodies navigating daily challenges. But several catch her attention. One patient's sleep quality has deteriorated over the past week, possibly indicating depression relapse. Maya sends a message through the patient portal, checking in and offering to schedule a mental health consultation. Another patient's blood glucose readings are creeping upward despite medication compliance, suggesting the diabetes protocol needs adjustment. A third patient shows elevated inflammatory markers, which could indicate developing illness or could be response to overtraining at the gym. These early warning signs, caught through continuous monitoring rather than sporadic checkups, allow interventions before problems become crises. It's predictive rather than reactive medicine, one of the major advances enabled by technology that actually serves health rather than profit. Of course, the data flow must be carefully managed to avoid the burnout of constant vigilance. Maya has configured her systems to alert her only to significant changes, trusting her patients to report symptoms while maintaining a baseline awareness of their physiological patterns. Her third evening task brings more intellectual engagement, research review. Medical knowledge evolves constantly, and staying current requires dedicated time. Maya's AI curator has selected several articles based on her interests and patient population. Tonight's selections include a study on combination therapies for treatment-resistant depression, finding that ketamine infusions paired with intensive psychotherapy show promising results. She adds this to her knowledge base, noting which of her patients might benefit and which subspecialists in the district have the training to administer this protocol. Another article examines the long-term effects of childhood exposure to nature on adult mental health, finding significant correlations between time spent outdoors in youth and resilience to stress disorders in adulthood. This confirms Maya's instinct to prescribe outdoor time for her anxious and depressed patients, but it also raises questions about health equity. Children in the lower district have far less access to green spaces than their wealthier counterparts. How can healers address disparities rooted in systemic inequity? This leads Maya to the District Health Board's proposal section, where practitioners can submit ideas for community-level interventions. She drafts a quick proposal, funding for a program that provides transportation for lower district children to visit the restored wetlands on the city's outskirts, combined with nature education and unstructured playtime. The program would be free to families and include meals, removing economic barriers to access. She estimates costs, cites the supporting research, and submits the proposal to the democratic decision-making process that governs district health priorities. This ability to shape the system she works within, to not just treat individual patients, but address root causes of poor health, represents another shift from earlier medical eras. Healers in the soft cyberpunk world are encouraged to be advocates, organizers, and visionaries alongside their clinical roles. Health isn't created only in exam rooms, but in policy decisions, urban planning, education systems, and economic structures. Medicine that ignores these factors treats symptoms while causes flourish unchecked. At 7 o'clock, Maya takes a break for dinner. The building's communal kitchen has prepared an evening meal: lentil stew rich with vegetables from the rooftop garden, whole grain bread, a bright salad with nuts and dried fruit. She eats in the shared dining area with other staff who are working late, their conversation ranging from patient care challenges to district gossip to shared recommendations for music, books, and art. This social fabric, this web of relationships among colleagues, provides emotional sustenance as important as the physical nutrition of the meal. Healing work demands so much: presence, empathy, skill, wisdom. And healers cannot pour endlessly without being refilled. Community provides this replenishment: the laughter over someone's terrible pun, the serious discussion of a complex case, the recommendation of a concert happening this weekend, the quiet companionship of eating together rather than alone. All of this matters for professional sustainability. After dinner, Maya returns to her office for the evening's final task: patient education, content creation. She's noticed that several patients have asked about sleep optimization, so she decides to create a comprehensive guide. Using her interface, she begins assembling content: research on sleep architecture and circadian rhythms, practical tips for sleep hygiene, guided relaxation recordings, recommendations for bedroom environment, discussion of when to seek professional help for sleep disorders. The AI assists by pulling relevant research articles, generating clear explanations of complex concepts, and organizing the information logically. But Maya provides the human touch: personal anecdotes from her practice, specific suggestions tailored to her community's living situations, encouragement and compassion for people struggling with something as basic and essential as sleep. She records a brief video introduction, speaking directly to her patients with warmth and authority. The video will be uploaded to the clinic's educational library, accessible to all patients and, because information shouldn't be gate-kept, to anyone in the community who might benefit. This commitment to accessible health education, to empowering people with knowledge rather than maintaining a priesthood of expertise, is foundational to soft cyberpunk healing philosophy. By 9 o'clock, Maya's administrative and research work is complete, She performs a final check of her secure messaging system, responding to a few patient questions that came in during the evening. Then she logs out, watching her holographic displays fade into dormancy. The office returns to its simple physical form: desk, chair, window, looking out on the glowing city. Before leaving, Maya takes a moment to reset the space for tomorrow. She straightens the papers on her desk, waters the small succulent plant on the windowsill, opens the window slightly to let in fresh night air. These small rituals mark the transition from work to rest, creating psychological boundaries that help prevent the total work that can consume passionate healers. She heads home, walking through the quiet evening streets. The shift from healer to simply Maya, from professional role to full human being, happens gradually with each step away from the clinic. Instead of going directly home, Maya diverts to the district's Continuing Education Center, a building dedicated to lifelong learning that hosts classes, workshops, and evening lectures on everything from quantum physics to traditional dance tonight. There's a virtual symposium being broadcast from the Global Healing Network, and the center is hosting a watch party for local practitioners. The symposium topic is particularly relevant to Maya's recent experiences: integrating traditional healing practices with advanced biotechnology. As medicine has become more scientifically sophisticated, there's been a danger of losing the wisdom embedded in traditional practices developed over millennia, but there's equally a danger of romanticizing traditional medicine while ignoring its limitations. The symposium aims to chart a middle path: rigorous evaluation of traditional practices, integration of those proven effective, and respectful acknowledgement that not all ancestral knowledge translates well to modern contexts. Maya enters the center's auditorium, where about 30 local healers have gathered. She recognizes most of them. Dr. Okafor is there, as are several nurses from the district hospital, a midwife known for her skill with difficult births, and a TCM practitioner whose acupuncture clinic has served the community for decades. They've arranged themselves in comfortable groups, some on cushions on the floor, others in the theatre-style seats. Large screens at the front will project the symposium, which is being live-streamed from a conference happening in real time in Nairobi. The first speaker is a healer from the Maasai community who's collaborated with biochemists to analyze the plants used in traditional medicine. Through careful study, they've isolated compounds with genuine therapeutic effects: anti-inflammatories from tree bark, antimicrobials from roots, compounds that affect neurotransmitter levels in measurable ways. But the research has also found that some traditional remedies have no biochemical effects beyond placebo, and a few are actually harmful. The presentation navigates this complex terrain with respect for tradition and commitment to evidence, neither dismissing ancestral knowledge nor accepting it uncritically. The second speaker presents research on the concept of healing environments across cultures. Traditional healing spaces, from Japanese gardens designed for meditation to indigenous sweat lodges, incorporated principles that modern neuroscience is now confirming: specific spatial arrangements, natural materials, particular ratios of light and shadow, even the acoustic properties of healing spaces. All can measurably affect patient physiology and psychology. The speaker shows brain scans of people in traditional healing spaces versus sterile modern clinics, displaying clear differences in stress markers and neural activity patterns. Between presentations, the local healers discuss implications for their practice. Dr. Okafor shares his experience trying to incorporate some traditional West African dietary practices into his nutritional counseling, running into challenges when patients can't access certain ingredients in the urban environment. The midwife talks about breathing techniques from Lamar's training that are remarkably similar to practices in multiple traditional cultures, suggesting these might tap into something fundamental about human physiology. Maya contributes her experience with Aisha, the anxious software developer. The biofeedback techniques she taught draw from research labs, but they parallel practices found in various contemplative traditions: Buddhist mindfulness, Sufi meditation, yogic pranayama, perhaps Maya suggests, traditional practices developed through centuries of empirical observation have stumbled upon the same mechanisms that modern neuroscience is now mapping with fMRI machines and EEG sensors. The third speaker, calling in from a hospital in Mumbai, discusses the integration of Ayurvedic medicine with modern diagnostics. Ayurveda's constitutional types, doshas, once seemed like pre-scientific speculation, but research is finding biochemical correlates. People with different doshas show measurably different patterns of metabolism, inflammation, and stress response. This doesn't mean ancient texts got everything right, but it suggests they were observing real patterns, even if the explanatory framework was different. The final presentation focuses on the future, using AI and genetic sequencing to create truly personalized medicine that integrates insights from multiple healing traditions. If we can map how individuals respond to different interventions, whether pharmaceutical drugs, herbal compounds, dietary changes, or mind-body practices, we can create treatment protocols tailored not just to diseases, but to specific people with their unique constitutions. As the symposium concludes, the local group continues talking, energized by the ideas they've encountered. Someone suggests starting a district-wide study comparing outcomes for depression treatment using different approaches: standard SSRIs, St. John's wort, combined with therapy, intensive meditation practice, exercise protocols, and combination approaches. With enough participants and careful data collection, they could generate real evidence about what works for whom. Maya volunteers to help design the study, her experience with research methodology from medical school finally getting practical application. Others commit to recruiting patients, coordinating with various practitioners, ensuring ethical protocols are followed. This is how medical knowledge advances in a decentralized system, not through corporate-funded trials, but through practitioners collaborating to answer questions that matter to their communities. The group finally disperses around 10:30, but Maya lingers in the center's library, a cozy space with physical books alongside digital archives. She browses the shelves, running her fingers along spines, enjoying the tactile pleasure that no holographic display can replicate. She pulls out a book on the history of herbalism in Chinese medicine, thinking it might inform her work with chronic pain patients. At the checkout desk, the librarian, an elderly woman who's volunteered here for decades, scans the book's chip, linking it to Maya's library account. Interesting choice, Dr. Chen. This author has a new book coming out next month about integrating traditional Chinese herbal formulas with pharmacogenomics. Would you like me to notify you when we receive it? Yes, please, Maya says. This human touch, the librarian's knowledge of books and readers, represents something that could easily have been automated, but has been deliberately preserved. The community values this personal connection, this human role, enough to support it. Not everything must be optimized for efficiency. Some things are worth keeping simply because they enrich life. Maya exits the continuing education center into the night. The streets are quiet now, most people home or in the various entertainment venues scattered through the district. She considers stopping for tea at one of the late-night cafes, but decides she's ready for home. The day has been long, full, rich with human connection and meaningful work. As she walks, she passes a small park where a group practices Tai Chi under the glow of bioluminescent trees. Their movements are slow, meditative, a flowing sequence that's part martial art, part moving meditation, part preventive medicine. Maya pauses to watch, appreciating the beauty of human bodies in coordinated motion, each person at their own skill level, but harmonizing into a collective practice. This scene encapsulates what Maya loves about this soft cyberpunk world. Technology serves but doesn't dominate. Tradition is honored but not calcified. Community thrives through balance of individual autonomy and collective care. It's not perfect. No human system ever is. But it's trying to be good, to be humane, to be healing. And in the effort itself, there's hope. Maya's apartment greets her with subtle awareness. As she enters, The lights gradually increase from their nighttime dimness to a warm amber glow that won't interfere with her melatonin production. The temperature adjusts slightly warmer, the preference the building's AI learned she has for evening comfort. Soft music begins playing at low volume. Tonight it selected a piece of ambient electronic music that blends field recordings of rain with gentle synthesizer tones, the algorithm having learned her evening moods over months of observation. But this smart home is nothing like the invasive, surveillance-laden systems of earlier decades. Maya owns her data completely. The AI's learning happens locally, in processors housed within her apartment, not on corporate servers analyzing her life for profit. She can review everything the system knows about her, delete any information, adjust any preferences. The technology is tool, not master, and the power dynamic is clear. She drops her bag by the door and moves to her small bathroom, where she begins her evening hygiene routine. In the mirror, she notices the fatigue in her face, the slight redness in her eyes, the tension held in her jaw. She's been holding others' pain all day, and some of it has inevitably soaked into her own body. This is the cost of empathy, the weight that healers carry. The shower's water pressure is gentle, the temperature precisely calibrated to her preference. She uses soap scented with lavender and chamomile, aromatherapy compounds known for their calming effects. The water itself has been filtered through multiple stages, removing contaminants while preserving beneficial minerals. The shower system will recycle and filter this water, using it for the building's vertical gardens, waste becoming resource in an endless cycle. As hot water sluices over her shoulders, Maya consciously releases the day. She visualizes each patient, each interaction, acknowledging them and then letting them flow away down the drain. This practice, taught during her medical training as a burnout prevention technique, helps maintain boundaries between her professional role and personal life. She cannot carry everyone's suffering home with her, or she'll have nothing left to give tomorrow. After the shower, Maya prepares her evening tea, a different blend than morning. This one contains valerian root for sleep support, passion flower for nervous system calming, and a touch of lemon balm. She's drinking her medicine, practicing on herself what she prescribes for patients. As the tea steeps, she performs a series of gentle yoga stretches, holding each pose for several breaths, feeling her body release the muscular tension accumulated through the day. With tea in hand, she settles onto her small couch near the window. The city spreads below, a scatter of lights, both electric and bioluminescent. She can see into some windows of the building across the street. A family playing a board game, an elderly person reading with a cat curled beside them, a couple dancing in their living room. These glimpses of other lives, these reminders that the city is a collection of individual stories happening simultaneously, bring Maya a sense of connection. She opens her personal journal, a practice she's maintained for years. Some entries are handwritten in an actual paper journal she keeps for especially emotional reflections, but most are voice recordings made to her interface and transcribed by the AI. Tonight, she chooses voice recording, letting her thoughts flow uncensored. Day 53 of this rotation saw 17 patients between clinic, house calls, and the vaccine clinic. Good outcomes mostly. Jorge's back pain finally responding to treatment, Aisha learning she can influence her anxiety, that baby with the ear infection who'll be fine with antibiotics, felt useful today, connected, present, but also tired in that deep way where I wonder if I'm giving too much. The evening symposium helped, reminded me there's a larger community of healers all grappling with similar questions. How do we integrate old and new? How do we honor tradition while remaining committed to evidence? How do we heal individuals while also addressing systemic causes of poor health? I keep thinking about that proposal I submitted, the one for getting lower district kids into nature more regularly. It feels both essential and inadequate. Essential because the research is clear. Nature access matters for development and lifelong wellness. Inadequate because the real problem is the economic inequality that concentrates poverty in under-resourced neighborhoods. I can treat symptoms all day, but if the underlying conditions don't change, But maybe that's too much pressure to put on medicine. Maybe healthcare's job is to care for people's health while other systems, economic, political, educational, address their domains, except everything connects. A child's health is influenced by parents' economic stress, by housing quality, by school funding, by neighborhood safety, by air quality, by 1,000 interwoven factors. Healing isn't separate from social justice. Grandmother Chen used to say that a healer's job was to relieve suffering wherever it was found. She practiced in such a different world, healthcare as commodity, doctors as salespeople for pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies deciding who deserved treatment. How did she maintain compassion in that system? How did she not become cynical? I'm grateful to live in this era, to practice in a system that at least tries to be equitable. But I wonder what healers 100 years from now will think of us, what will seem barbaric about our practices. What will we have gotten wrong? Tomorrow, full clinic schedule, including 2 new patients and 3 follow-ups. That case review meeting at lunch about complex pain patients, evening meeting about the lower district children's nature program, assuming it gets enough votes to move forward. Should also make time to actually read that herbalism book I checked out, instead of just intending to read it. But tonight, just rest, just release, just be grateful for another day of meaningful work and the privilege of being trusted with people's vulnerability. She ends the recording, and the interface saves it to her personal archive, encrypted and backed up, but accessible only to her. Over the years, this journal has become a tool for processing the emotional intensity of her work, for tracking her own development as a healer, and for maintaining perspective during difficult periods. Maya checks her schedule for tomorrow, noting nothing urgent or especially challenging. She sets her intention for the next day, to be present with each patient, to remain curious rather than assuming, to balance technical skill with human compassion. Then she places her interface on the charging pad and activates sleep mode, cutting off all notifications except true emergencies. Before bed, she performs one final ritual, standing at her window, looking out at the city. She places her hand on her heart and takes 3 slow breaths, feeling her chest rise and fall. This simple practice, grounding her awareness in her body's most fundamental rhythm, serves as a transition from the day's doing to the night's being. The bioluminescent vines on her building pulse gently, their light soft and steady. Somewhere in the distance, she can hear music. A late-night party or perhaps a performance at one of the arts venues the city breathes, alive with its millions of human stories, its endless complexity of joy and suffering, connection and isolation, sickness and health. Maya turns from the window, ready for sleep. Her bedroom is small and simple. The bed comfortable. The air fresh from the window she cracks open, despite the sophisticated ventilation system. She prefers real air, the sense of connection to the outdoor world that no filtered, processed version can replicate. She can hear distant sounds, traffic, voices, the hum of the city's infrastructure, but they're muted, soothing rather than disturbing. As she settles into bed, her circadian interface detects her declining alertness and begins its nighttime protocol, subtly encouraging her body's natural sleep processes. The room's lighting has faded to near darkness, just a soft glow from the bioluminescence outside. The temperature drops slightly. The cooler air supporting sleep, the gentle ambient music shifts to even simpler tones, eventually fading to silence. Maya's thoughts begin to drift, that delicious slide from waking consciousness into the liminal space before sleep. Faces float through her mind, patients she saw today, colleagues she collaborated with, strangers she passed on the street. Each one a complete universe of experience, each one navigating their own joys and struggles, each one doing their best with the resources and knowledge they possess. She falls asleep thinking about healing, about the profound intimacy of being invited into someone's vulnerability, about the responsibility and privilege of having knowledge and skills that can ease suffering, She dreams, though she won't remember the details in the morning, of gardens growing inside human bodies, of light that heals, of cities where every surface blooms with life. The night passes. Her body cycles through sleep stages, processing the day's experiences, consolidating memories, repairing tissues, preparing for tomorrow. Her neural patch monitors her vitals, ensuring she's getting quality rest, ready to alert her if any concerning patterns emerge. The city around her sleeps or doesn't, each person on their own schedule, the collective continuing its endless respiration of work and rest, activity and restoration. Tomorrow, she'll wake and do it again, see patients, listen to suffering, apply her knowledge and skill, offer comfort and treatment, be part of the vast, decentralized network of healers working to reduce pain and promote flourishing. But tonight, she sleeps. And in that sleep, she too is healed, her own systems tending themselves, preparing her to continue the work. As dawn approaches once more, the cycle begins again. Maya's circadian interface will gently wake her. The bioluminescent vines will fade as natural light increases. The city will transition from night to day. And another cohort of suffering humans will seek healing from those who have dedicated their lives to understanding the magnificent complexity of bodies and minds. This day in the life of a healer in a soft cyberpunk world reveals a future that's both aspirational and in some ways already emerging. The technologies Maya uses, biofeedback, neural interfaces, AI-assisted diagnosis, bioluminescent plants, advanced monitoring systems, all have roots in research being conducted today. The social structures she works within, community health networks, integrated care teams, universal healthcare access, democratic resource allocation, exist in various forms in different parts of our current world. What's different in this soft cyberpunk vision is the synthesis. Advanced technology wielded with wisdom, innovation guided by compassion, progress measured not in profit, but in human flourishing. It's a future that learns from the mistakes of harsh cyberpunk's corporate dystopias and instead imagines technology as a tool for community empowerment rather than control. The soft cyberpunk healer bridges multiple worlds, ancient healing wisdom and cutting-edge medical technology, individual patient care and population health, physical treatment and psychological support, scientific rigor and humanistic compassion. This integration isn't easy. It requires both breadth and depth of knowledge, both technical skill and emotional intelligence. But when practiced well, it offers a model of healthcare that honors the full complexity of human beings. Maya's day has shown us healing that's both high-tech and high-touch, where sensors and software enhance rather than replace the fundamental human connection between healer and patient. We've seen medicine practiced not in sterile isolation, but embedded within community, where social determinants of health are recognized as equally important as biological factors. We've witnessed a system that strives, however imperfectly, to provide quality care as a right rather than a commodity. This future isn't inevitable. It requires intentional choices about how we develop technology, how we structure healthcare systems, how we allocate resources, how we define success. It requires resisting the gravitational pull toward profit maximization and instead centering human welfare. It requires believing that technology can be shaped by values other than efficiency and growth, that advancement can mean movement toward justice and sustainability rather than simply toward novelty and power. But if we make those choices, if we insist that our tools serve human flourishing, if we design systems that honor both individual autonomy and collective care, if we integrate scientific innovation with ancestral wisdom, then perhaps we can create a world something like the one Maya inhabits, a world where healers can practice their art, supported by powerful tools, but never reduced to technicians, where patients receive care that sees them as whole human beings, embedded in families, communities, and ecosystems, where health is understood not as the absence of disease, but as a dynamic state of well-being nurtured by connection, purpose, and participation in something larger than oneself. As this night journey ends, as you prepare to return to your own world and your own body, perhaps you can carry some of these principles with you. The recognition that technology is not inherently alienating, but can be designed for human benefit. The understanding that healing happens in relationships, not just interventions. The knowledge that your health is influenced by countless factors: sleep, nutrition, movement, community, purpose, nature. And that small changes in any of these can ripple into significant effects. The hope that systems can be shaped by values, that progress toward justice and care is possible, that the future doesn't have to be dystopian. Thank you for spending this day with Dr. Maya Chen. If you enjoyed this journey, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more explorations of historical and imagined lives. Leave a comment sharing which aspect of soft cyberpunk healing resonated most with you, or what questions it raised about our current healthcare systems. Your engagement helps these videos reach more people and supports the creation of future content. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Tend your bodies with the same compassion you'd offer a beloved friend. Seek connection with others and with the living world around you. Question systems that prioritize profit over well-being. Imagine better futures and then work to build them. You are, each of you, remarkable collections of cells and consciousness, navigating this complex world as best you can, that deserves honor, that deserves care. Sleep well, dream bright, and wake ready for whatever your tomorrow brings.